Welcome back, everybody. So, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 1, Episode 2, named The Harvest. Now, this second episode, well, technically it's not a second episode because they use this as an hour and a half kind of like pilot. But if you look at it in episodes, they broke it up into two. So I actually enjoyed the second half of this, or the second episode, a lot, to be fair. Because in this episode, you do get some explanations on demons and explaining. You also get to see some of the gang find out that Buffy is the Slayer. So this episode carries on from the end of the first one, where Buffy is in a little bit of a predicament, and basically she manages to get out of it. And this whole episode revolves around trying to fight back a horde of vampires while trying to stop the harvest. I generally, like I said, do enjoy this episode. Strictly because you get Giles. It's not just Giles explaining to the gang, it's explaining to everybody. They're setting up the universe for this series. Is when you get Giles explaining the whole mythos of demons, vampires, how they originated, and all that kind of stuff. And they're just setting up the kind of timeline, or like they're setting up this kind of universe in the second episode, ready for the rest of this season and the rest of all the seasons, to be fair, knowing that there is not just vampires out there, there's all sorts of other little nasties out there that all want to do bad against our world. One of them being the Master, which I will get into very, very shortly. Like I said, we also get to find out. Now we also get to see that Willow finds out that Buffy becomes a Slayer, and there's a whole explanation again about how the Slayer is born, why she is there, and it's just nice because it just kind of like explains a few things for you. And if you haven't seen the series, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about if you ever get a chance to watch it. Other bits of this episode I really enjoyed. Like I said, I enjoyed the second part more than I do the first part because there's just a bit more going on. You get introduced to so many different you get introduced to them in the first episode, but I'm going to touch on them now in this second review. So you get introduced to a horde of vampires, but mainly three. So we got the Master, Luke, and Darla. So the Master is like this really old, ancient vampire who come to Sunnydale to basically try and open up the Hellmouth. But while trying to do that, there was a huge earthquake, and he got stuck in there. And he is actually a very, very good villain in this one. He is very, very sadistical. He is nasty. Let me put it like that. And the way he portrays this is what I think I enjoyed. It's kind of there's a bit of an elaborate kind of side to him, but yet you don't want to piss him off either because he will do some damage. You also get to see there is no love lost between vampires. There's no friends as such. They're all out for themselves in a way, but it's always nice to be in a gang. You do get that kind of. They're just showing you what the vampires are actually like in this, and another thing that I enjoyed. It's another explanation about how they are, where they come from, how they kind of originated. Then we're going to go on to Luke, who is this big, really, really strong vampire who's only been beaten a few times, and he basically got beaten again by the Slayer again, which he feels bad. He is a bit of a badass. He is the muscle of this clan. He is the person that probably most of the other vampires actually fear because of his stature, the way he is, the close connection he has with the Master as well, just makes him a very, very good force. In this episode, yes, you do get to see some of his power, but I think they kind of failed on displaying exactly how much power he had. I get this, it's only an episode, they can only put in so much, but to get rid of him in the first episode, I get why and how they had to do it, but I think they could have chose somebody else to be the vessel, like Darla, because I'd like to have seen a bit more of Luke as a vampire in here, especially in this first season. He had a lot of potential, let me put it like this. And then we have Darla, who is like the female, but she is quite badass. She's very evil. You get to see more of her through this season, and you get to see more of her throughout the seasons of Buffy and even Angel as well. She's just a very good character. She's very kind of sadistical, and she portrays this very naughty kind of side to her, but with a lot of violence and with ideally death behind it. And these three in this episode, I actually think are the best three vampires. And I really, really would love to have seen a bit more of Luke, the Master, and Darla together. But I understand why they got rid of Luke. They had to because it's part of the storyline. We also get an explanation in this episode about what the harvest actually is. It's just like an ascension kind of thing. This guy is the master is trapped underneath Sunnydale, and basically he needs a vessel, somebody who can feed but is connected to him, so he can actually finally release himself. Meanwhile, the clan or the gang have to stop this while trying to prevent not to get bitten and killed by a horde of vampires. Generally, just you get to find out other things in this episode as well. You find out that Willow is a bit of a computer genius, and it's all good. You get to see Cordelia in here and her bullying techniques, and yet you get to see Willow's revenge on that, which I think is absolutely fantastic. There's so much, there's quite a lot in this episode. You get them trying to search for Xander's best mate Jesse and how they used him to bait, and how his transformation as well, and how Xander has to deal with that. Just in general, there is actually another bit which I kind of enjoyed. You get to see Buffy and Angel. You start to see their love start to develop in this episode as well, which is a nice touch, because obviously in the second series that takes a very, very drastic turn and probably makes one of the best villains in all the Buffy vampire series, let me put it like that. Like I said, generally as a whole, there was quite a lot going on in this episode. Quite a lot happens. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's realistically what really... The first episode got me kind of engrossed, and then the second episode really got me, properly kind of into Buffy, this series. And through the rest of the season, there is a couple of episodes which I'm not too keen on, but at the end of the day, it's still just... This episode itself is just absolutely fantastic. I just really enjoyed it. This whole pilot, the hour and a half pilot, is just an enjoyable watch in all sorts of different ways. Strictly because you get introduced in the first episode to all the characters. Then in the second episode, you get the explanations, and then you get things explained to you, and they're basically setting up this whole Buffy universe, and I just absolutely love it. Fight sequences in this are not absolutely amazing, I have to admit. They are not poorly choreographed. They're just not as good as they are in the later series, let me put it like that. But that being said, I understand why it's a pilot, it's the first season. I don't expect too much from this, to be honest with you, but it's still enjoyable. I like the action sequences. There's not a huge amount in here, but it's enjoyable. It's not overdone. There's not a lot, it's not overdone. I think it's done just right, for what they were trying to do. Probably the only biggest bugbear is that, again, Luke is supposed to be this really, really strong vampire, and yet he did get his ass kicked by Slayer. And, he is meant to be this badass, but it's a tiny little bugbear. It's nothing that kind of puts me off this in any way, shape, or form. So, again, please tell me what you think. Put it in the comments down below as normal. I hope you all have a great rest of the day, whatever you're doing. Please take care, and goodbye.